Hi, 1 Hour Smart Home here, and today we're going to show you how to install a Leviton three-way smart dimmer switch. So what we've got here is a smart Wi-Fi Leviton dimmer. This can be controlled from your phone and can be connected to Alexa or Google Home so that you can control it with voice commands. Now, what we have down here is a three-way switch example. So you can turn it on or off from either one of these light switches. So that's a typical three-way switch. How we're going to connect the Leviton three-way switch and convert it to a smart switch is we're going to use this newer Leviton device, which is a smart switch remote. So this will actually connect wirelessly to this Leviton smart switch and allow you to make it a three-way switch. So what's nice about this is it does simplify the wiring a little bit because this is actually battery powered and those batteries will last a couple of years in there, and you can just open this switch up and it's really easy to access the batteries and reinstall them. So there's even a little hinge right here on the side of the switch that makes it really easy to replace those batteries, and you can just pop this open. But the other advantage of having this wireless remote with this Wi-Fi smart switch is that if you currently have a light switch and it's not three-way, you could just add one of these remotes and then you don't even need to do any wiring. This has a very thin profile, so you can actually just mount this underneath a faceplate like this on the wall, and you could add a three-way switch in any room as long as you installed one of these new smart dimmers in your existing switch. So we're going to go ahead and get started installing these now, but one thing to note is that the Leviton Smart Wi-Fi switch does require a neutral wire. So most newer homes built after 1980 are going to have a neutral wire in the switch box, but not all homes built after 1980 will have a neutral wire in the switch box. And even some homes built before 1980 will still have a neutral wire in the switch box. But it's more prevalent in newer construction. So that's just something to note before you get started installing these. We've got another video that shows you how to identify a neutral wire, so go ahead and check that out in the description below. Now, before we get started with the actual wiring of the new three-way switch, I wanted to show you the wiring diagram for how we have the existing three-way switch wired. Now, this is a fairly common way that three-way switches are wired. However, there are multiple different ways that your three-way switch could be wired. So just make sure that you understand the wiring and operation of a three-way switch before you get started. But with the new wiring that we're going to do with the Leviton Smart Dimmer, it does make it much easier than if you were to install another three-way smart switch on the other side of the remote. It does simplify the wiring a little bit. So what we've got is this switch right here is the light switch that's shown on this diagram. Incoming into that box, we have a hot line, a neutral line, and then we've got a three-way switch. And at the bottom of the switch, we've got that hot line coming in. And then at the top, we have two traveler wires. When we open this up, we'll see the color of those wires, but one of the traveler wires is a white wire. The other wire is a red wire. Those go over here to the other three-way switch, and you've got traveler wire terminals there on the top again. And then what you've got is your line hot or line switched coming out of this switch right here, and it goes back through this box, that is this box right here, and then that line switched or line hot connects to what is the load leg or load wire of the light fixture, which we've got right here. And then the power comes back down through a neutral wire into the existing box that's right here, and then it goes to your circuit breaker or panel. So that is the existing three-way switch wiring diagram. And the new three-way switch wiring diagram, which we've got here, shows you what we're going to do. So since we don't need any wiring over in this second light switch because we're going to be using that dimmer remote right here that is wireless and battery powered, it makes the wiring in this switch box really easy. We're just going to cap off all of those wires, wire them together, and then on the other side of the three-way switch, we're going to cap off those same wires and wire them together over here in the other junction box. So they're actually not going to be wired to anything on either side in either switch box. So this one's going to have that bundle of wires wired together, and this box is going to have that bundle of wires wired together. Then we're going to take a neutral wire from the existing switch box in here. We're going to connect it to the light switch. Then we've got our hot line incoming to this light switch. And then all we've got coming out of this is a load wire that's going to go up to the light fixture and a neutral wire that's going to come back down. So let's go ahead and get started on wiring this up. We go ahead and test the power out, and we can see that the power is currently on and this three-way switch is working. So what we need to do is turn off the power at the circuit breaker. So what I like to do for this is turn on the light switch so that we know it's powered up, and then I go down to the circuit breaker and I'm going to turn it off. And when I do so, then the power will be cut off to the existing light fixture and we'll know the power is off. So I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. All right, now we've got the power cut off at the circuit breaker. So let's go ahead and check to make sure the power is off. It's a good idea if you have one to use a non-contact voltage meter. We've got one right here, and you just go up next to the light switch and see if you get any detection for power. We do not. You also want to check and make sure if anything will turn on or off. We're not getting anything on or off, so we're going to go ahead and remove the cover plates to both of these switches. All right, now that we've got the cover plates off, it's a good idea to check the power again with the non-contact voltage meter, see if we're getting any readings. We're not getting any readings here, so we're good to go, and we can go ahead and remove each switch from each junction box. So let's go ahead and do that now. Then we go ahead and pull the switches out of the junction boxes so we can inspect the wiring. So before you disconnect any of the wiring on the existing switches, it's always a good idea to take a picture of your existing wiring and your existing switches and how they're wired up, so that if you need to replace anything, that you can go ahead and do that. So on this side of the junction box, we're going to pretty much take this switch out and then wire all these wires together. So it's going to make it pretty simple over here. But make sure you take that picture first. We're going to go ahead and remove all the wires over here, and we're going to remove all the wires on this side. But before we do that, you can see up here we've got our traveler wire up here. This is this white wire with a little piece of black electrical tape. Sometimes the person who installed this will use a piece of black electrical tape to designate that it is a traveler wire instead of a neutral wire. But if it is a three-way switch, you typically are going to be able to tell that that is one of the traveler wires. And then the wire on the other side, this red one, is also a traveler wire. It also has that piece of electrical tape here, but it's also a different color. This one's red here. And then we've got our hot wire coming in right here. So that's this black wire right there. And then at the top again, we've got the unshielded copper wire. That's our ground wire. Over here, we've got our traveler wire on the left side here. We've got our ground wire on the top of that as well. And then on this side, we've got that white traveler wire. And over here, we've got that line switched or line hot wire that then goes from this junction box all the way up into this light fixture. And then out of this light fixture, we got a neutral coming down, and it goes back to this box and then into the panel. So let's go ahead and remove both of these switches. Now we've got all of our wires removed from the existing light switches, so it's time to inspect the wiring and figure out what is going on. And we want our final wiring to look like this wiring diagram we've got here. So what I'm going to do is just pull out the wiring here so we can inspect it a little bit closer and see what is going on. Now that we've got the wiring out, it's a little bit easier to identify the wiring. So what we've got here is our hot wire. We're going to reuse that. That's going to go on the new switch. What we've got here is an existing traveler wire. This goes from this box over to here, and it's this wire right here. So that's going to be abandoned, and these are all going to be wired together. This is the other traveler wire, this red wire, so that's going to be wired to this white wire here, and they're going to be abandoned in this box and in this box over here. Then what we've got up top here is we've got our line switched incoming. So there's a black wire that comes from this box. You can see it here, and you know that it's part of that box because the incoming bundle of wires is this Romex white wire here that has 4 wires in it. It's got the red wire in it, the black wire in it, the white wire in it, and the unshielded ground wire. So we're going to disconnect this because the wire that goes from this box to this box is also going to be abandoned. It is this wire right here, so we're just going to cap that off. However, the wire that is attached to is this wire right here. Even though it's shown in red right here as a load wire, it's actually this other black wire that goes from this junction box up into the light switch. So we need to have that load wire attached to the new smart switch right here. So we're going to go ahead and disconnect these 2 wires right here. So now those wires are disconnected, and the one that's going to be abandoned is the one that goes from this junction box to this junction box, because we're no longer going to have the active 3-way switch over here. We're going to use this wireless device here, and this is the wire that goes up to the light fixture, and that's going to be wired in as the load wire. Now the last piece of the picture is this bundle of white wires here. These are the neutral wires that are connected to this light fixture and also come from the electrical panel. Now, don't get confused with the traveler wire that's also white that goes between the 2 junction boxes. You want to make sure that you connect the neutral to the proper bundle of wires. And because our existing 3-way switch didn't require a neutral wire, but the new one does, we're going to need to make sure that we wire up the neutral wire from this switch into the bundle of neutral wires right here. So this has a white wire right here. We're going to unwrap this a little bit, and then we're going to get all the wiring set to go. So we've got the new Leviton Wi-Fi smart dimmer that we're going to install here, and it's got wires on the back. So this green wire here, this is our ground wire. We're going to connect it to the unshielded ground wire right here. We've got this red wire, this is our load wire. We're going to connect it to the load wire that goes up to the light fixture, which is this one right here. So we're going to go ahead and connect those 2. We've got our hot wire, that's this black wire right here, and they call it a line wire. It's a line wire or a hot wire. Those are interchangeable terms. And we're going to connect it to this bundle of wires right here, where we've got this existing extender right there. Now we've got our neutral wire, that's this white wire. We're going to connect it to this bundle of wires down here. And the last one is a traveler wire. So even though we're not going to use the traveler wire in this case, and we don't need a traveler wire, there is another Leviton 3-way switch set which uses a hardwired 3-way remote instead of this wireless 3-way remote here. So if you use that hardwired 3-way remote, you would use this traveler wire. But we don't need this traveler wire because in our new wiring diagram, we're going to install it where we're just going to abandon that old wiring and we're going to connect them wirelessly using this new device that just came out. So I've never used this, so I'm going to be testing this out over the next week or 2 and hopefully give a review on this. But this is a new piece of technology that Leviton has. Lutron has a very similar system where they use a battery-powered wireless remote. So I do trust the concept of it because the Lutron system works pretty well. But we will have to see how Leviton executes on this and how it works with this Leviton 3-way smart switch once we've got it all wired up. So let's go ahead and get started wiring everything together. I'm just going to start here at the top. I'm going to wire in my hot wire to this bundle of hot wires here, and we're just going to take this end off, and we're going to then take a wire nut and wire these 2 together. Now that we've got our hot wire wired up, let's go ahead and wire up our red load wire right here. So we're going to wire it up to the load wire that is right here that goes up to the existing light fixture. So let's get these 2 together and then just wire them up with a wire nut. Now we've got our ground wire. Let's go ahead and wire it to the unshielded ground wire in the junction box. Now let's go ahead and take the wires that we're going to abandon on this side, which is this whole bundle of wires that comes from the other junction box. And let's go ahead and wire those together with a wire nut so that they are not going to be floating loosely in the box. So let's go ahead and take all 3 of these and then we're going to wire them together. Now all we've got left is our neutral wire on the new switch, which we need to wire to this bundle of neutral wires right here. So we're going to go ahead and remove the wire nut on that bundle, and then we're going to take our new neutral wire and wire it in with this bundle. So let's go ahead and wire the neutral wires together. Now let's go ahead and cap off the wires that we've got in this side of the junction box. So we're going to cap off the 3 that are together here, and then we're just going to push that unshielded ground wire back into the junction box. So let's take this bundle here, and we're just going to take a wire nut and wire all 3 of them together. Now let's go ahead and fold those back down into the junction box. All right, so we've got everything wired up, and now you can see this switch is fairly large, so we're going to have to get it in here, and we want to make sure that we've got it right side up when we install it. So that's this direction. It takes a little bit of wire origami to fold these into the junction boxes, so take your time getting them in there and then go ahead and install the light switch. So we're going to fold the wires in, and then we're going to install the light switch. Now we've got our wires folded in there. Go ahead and secure the light switch to the junction box. Now all we need to do is go ahead and install the remote dimmer. So we're just going to line it up and then install it with 2 screws on the junction box. Now we're ready to go ahead and reinstall the cover plates. So we're going to put one on here. And what I really like about this Wi-Fi remote dimmer switch, or the wireless remote dimmer switch, is that this does work with standard faceplates. So you can do it with a single gang faceplate, a double gang, a triple gang. It has the exact same pattern as a normal light switch. So once you install this, it looks just like a normal light switch. So that is what's really nice about this. If you have a junction box, you can install it and it'll look like it's a hardwired switch. Or if you're just installing it on a wall as a remote, you can also use a cover plate and it's going to look just like a light switch that was hardwired. Now, before we put the cover plate on the remote Wi-Fi Leviton dimmer, we need to actually power it up and activate it. So on the side here, there's a little tab. You just press in on that, and then you're going to be able to open the switch. It's hinged on one side here. You can see there's a hinge right there, and then you press this tab in over here, and that's going to allow you to access this light switch. So now all we've got is these 2 little plastic pieces that say remove tab. We're going to remove those, and that's going to power this up. And then we're going to go ahead and put this back down. Just push down, it just snaps into place. And then we're ready to put that cover plate back on. So it's going to go into pairing mode. If it goes out of pairing mode, not a big deal. You can put it back into pairing mode. But then we're going to put the cover plate on, and then we're going to restore the power to this. Now we've got both cover plates back on, and I'm going to go ahead and restore the power at the circuit breaker to these light switches. All right, we restored power at the circuit breaker and this light switch went back on. So let's go ahead, we're going to turn this one off. Let's get that all the way off, and then we're going to pair these 2 together so that we can control the 3-way switch from either this switch that's hardwired or from the remote control Wi-Fi smart dimmer. Now, in order to pair these 2 light switches, I'm going to press the top of this 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can see that the green light down here has changed its status. I'm going to turn this off, and now these should be paired. That green flashing light is no longer on, so that means that this has paired with this other side of the 3-way switch. So let's go ahead and test it out. All right, so now it's working from that remote control. We can turn it on and off from this side of the 3-way switch, and we can do the same thing over here. And we can also dim or turn on and off the switch from this other side. So we can turn it on and we can dim down, or we can dim up and go to a higher level here. Now, if you're having issues getting either one of these paired, all you need to do is press the top rocker 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times until this light starts to blink here. And then also press this one over here 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's a little light down here that's going to blink as well. Now, this light may blink for a little bit after you've gotten it paired. After about 10 minutes, that will stop because it will exit out of pairing mode. But now we've got these successfully connected as a Leviton three-way smart dimmer switch. But we're also going to show you how to connect them to the app so that you can control these remotely from your phone, now that we've got the hardwired portion of the three-way smart dimmer installed. So we just open up the Leviton app. If you don't have this installed, go ahead and install it now. It's called My Leviton. Just log in with an email and password or create one. Once we log in, we've got the app here, and all we need to do to add these light switches to the app is go ahead and we're going to press the plus symbol up here at the top, and we're going to go ahead and click Add a Device. We're adding a dimmer, so we're going to go ahead and add this top option here. And this is actually a second gen Wi-Fi dimmer. You can also look at the model numbers on the box. So what we've got here is a D26HD. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click on that. It says, before we start, is your device installed and is the light flashing green? So this one is still in pairing mode. You can see that light flashing green down there. So we're going to go ahead and say, yes, let's go. And it already found the dimmer, so I'm going to select that right here, and I'm going to click Next. Now we just need to choose our Wi-Fi network, so I'm going to go ahead and do that and click Next. Now we need to enter our Wi-Fi password. Now I entered the password, and I'm going to click Next. Now we go ahead and choose an icon. I'm just going to leave the selected icon and click Save. Now let's give this a name. We're just going to call this one Office, then click Next. Now we can look at suggested rooms. We're just going to put this one on Entryway and click Add Room. It says, hooray, your Decora Smart product is ready for use. Check out the integration. So this works with Alexa, Google Assistant, IFTT. It actually also works with HomeKit. So something to note there, there's actually a HomeKit code on this. But we're going to go ahead and click Finish for now. We've got other videos that show you how to connect it to Alexa or Google, so just go ahead and look in the description for those. Now we've got our switch here, and I can turn it on and off right here from the app. So we can turn it on, we can turn it off, or we can adjust the dimming levels here. So let's go ahead. We're going to turn it on, and I can also slide this down, turn it down to 10%, or I can slide this up, turn it up to 100%, and I'm just going to go ahead and click off here. So thank you for watching this video on how to install and set up a three-way smart Wi-Fi dimmer switch from Leviton. So these are the Leviton Decora Smart switches, and I am just testing this out for the first time. This new wireless Leviton dimmer remote. I really like the concept of this because it's a very similar concept to what Lutron has, and the Lutron wireless three-way switches or Lutron remotes have been really a nice option for if you don't have a three-way switch, and simplify the wiring if you already have an existing three-way switch. It just makes it a little bit easier than installing a dimmer remote. Now, because we've got this in a three-way configuration right now, we've got these two switches. With the wireless Wi-Fi dimmer remotes, you could also make it a four-way switch or a five-way switch if you wanted to add another switch. You could just put one on the wall. You don't need a junction box if you're using this battery-powered remote. And I did look in the instructions on this. It says the batteries in here will last 5 years. So after 5 years, you would need to take this cover plate off. You'd have to open that up and put 2 new batteries in if you do go this route with the three-way dimmer switch. So just something to note there. Now, what's also interesting about this Wi-Fi dimmer remote is that you can use this switch to actually control smart Leviton plugs. So I'm going to try that a little bit later, but you can connect it via wireless network to the Leviton smart plugs, so that, let's say you've got a lamp currently that you've got plugged into an outlet. Well, you could add one of these as a switch and it would control that smart outlet just like a built-in switch. So I think that's really cool if you don't have overhead lighting that's currently wired to a switch, that you could have a lamp that you plug in and then you wirelessly connect this remote control to that plug, and then you're going to be able to use them together just like you had a built-in or hardwired outlet or hardwired light fixture. So I do think that's a really interesting application. So thanks again for watching this video. Go ahead and check the links below for all the other information regarding this product, reviews, and or how you can wire it up in different configurations. Go ahead, please give us that thumbs up if you want to support us. Click on any of the links below, and if you want to help this channel, please subscribe. Thank you.